All right, folks, welcome to the Health Ranger Report here on Brighteon.tv. This is Mike Adams on Monday, January 10th, 2021, and this is being simulcast on brighteonradio.com, which is launching today, as well as the brighteon.com situation update podcast. So this is really technically a triple, and they're starting to do that with a new proposed law in Washington State. That's the topic. We're going to talk about that today and so much more. Stay with us here as we get into the Strike Force teams on Brighteon.tv. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome to the simulcast situation update for Monday, January 10th, 2021. This is Mike Adams here, the Health Ranger. I'm going to have to really try to control myself today because if I were to express what I'm actually feeling, I would be screaming like Alex Jones for the entire hour. I'm going to try to not do that because I kind of blew out my voice a little bit last week. And I did too many recordings, so I got arrested. You might be able to hear it's a little bit hoarse. That's okay. We're in trouble. Humanity is in trouble, and today's podcast is going to focus on why that is. We've got a lot of breaking news for you here, but the biggest news is they're going to take this thing kinetic. Doesn't know how eyebrows are supposed to work, and so they are just, I don't know, tattooed on or something, and they look really wonky, and they're completely artificial. And again, the creature inside her does not seem to understand how to make human facial expressions. But check this out for yourself. Wow, remember, she's the one who said privileged scrub when she had too much to drink, which is pretty much every day. All right, so next I want to play for you this video. Many of you have probably seen it over the weekend. Many tourists were killed in Brazil in a boat when a giant chunk of a cliff, I mean, they're in a canyon, and a giant piece of the cliff broke off and fell on them and slammed on the boat. The thing is, there were warning signs before this thing fell, and a lot of people were warning some of the boats, like, get away, because they could see boulders starting to fall off. This big slab was starting to move and so on. And yet people are just tourists, and they're just, looking around. Everything's great. Look at the waterfall and the rainbows, and they're not seeing the danger that's coming. So, and I don't mean to mock the people who died in this. It's obviously not their fault. It's the fault of the boat captain who didn't get the heck out of the way. But I think there's a learning opportunity here for the world to say, hey, sometimes the signs of these catastrophes are right out in the open. You're looking right at it. So why don't you move out of the way? This is what I'm wondering. So here we go. We're going to start this video. 3, 2, 1. All right, so here they are out on their boats, having a good time. Everything looks pretty much okay. It's a beautiful scene. They're in a canyon, just minding their own business. They're tourists. And then, somebody notices something. It's like, whoa, what's going on with that rock wall over there? There's like a giant big crack that's been forming, They're looking at it. It's like, whoa, that's unusual. This is like us saying, hey, wait, look at what's going on over there. But everybody else is just a tourist, like looking around. Oh, this is normal. And they're like laughing and playing. This is just, everything's beautiful. Look at the waterfall. Stop being a pessimist. Stop being negative. But then people are like, no, wait, seriously, look at that rock wall. Holy crap. Like there's boulders coming down and everything. Look at the boulders. They're falling down. The whole foundation's going away. People are like, nah, stop being a pessimist. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, seriously, you should get that boat out of the way. You should probably leave the area. I mean, the thing is falling apart. Of course, the Satellite Phone Store, which is a regular sponsor, SAT123.com. I carry a satellite phone with me everywhere, as you know, when I travel in the car, just going to the office, going to the studio, I have a satellite phone. It's a backup device. It works when the cell towers don't work. And it's also very difficult for you to be tracked. Since you're only talking to the satellites, they can't really pinpoint your exact location like they can with the cell towers. So for privacy, for security, for backup comms, satellite phones are the way to go. SAT123.com. In addition, a product that I've been mentioning without them being a sponsor called Crave Kicker, and that's Krave, cravekicker.com. This is a product that helps people stop smoking. They are now officially a sponsor. So I want to welcome them as a sponsor and encourage you to check them out. It's a great gift for anybody who's still a smoker trying to quit smoking. And believe me, you don't want to be addicted to cigarettes when it all hits the fan, which is where this is going. Get off the cigarettes, good for your health, obviously, but also good for your sanity in case the supply chain totally breaks down. Cravekicker.com is the website, and it's a natural product, certified USDA, organic, and it helps people kick cravings by naturally supporting dopamine production in your brain using nutrients and herbs. All right, changing the subject now. I've got something kind of personal to share with you. I was awakened at about 5 o'clock this morning, and I had an instant download of knowledge. I should say, well, alleged knowledge. We'll see. But there was this instant download. All of a sudden, I had this knowledge that something is imminent, that something's going to happen. And I want to share that with you because I'd never experienced this kind of instant download effect before. You may recall a couple of years ago, I had an extremely vivid warning dream, a premonition dream, and I shared it with people publicly. And it was very visual. It was kind of a dream of several minutes in duration of explosion and fire and the scene, the umbrella of this cart in a public forum in a city. And I went ahead and shared that publicly because it was so strong. And then, sure enough, a couple of weeks later, there was a massive explosion in, I think it was Indonesia, and food carts were blown up, and it was almost exactly what I had seen in that very vivid dream. And I have not had a dream like that since then, thank goodness, because it was quite frightening. But I went public with that. I wrote about it on Natural News. You can go back and find the article. I don't remember what day it is, but I wrote the article, talked about the dream weeks before the event happened. Well, I've just had something similar to that for the first time since then. But this time it wasn't a vision. It was an instant knowing. That's the only way to describe it. I woke up and I instantly knew what I'm about to tell you. It was like an instant download. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't, a dream. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't pictures, nothing. It was knowledge, instant knowledge. And here's what that knowledge, I'll describe it to you in the best way I can. It is that cities in America, and it seemed like this was larger than just one country. So cities of the world are going to be, what's the best way to say this? Much of the soil that is underneath and around the cities is going to be replaced with water in a catastrophic event that seems like it might be waves, but it's more than that. It's almost like somehow there's an earthquake that involved with a tidal wave, so that there's vibration of the earth, and the vibration is liquefying something. And so something solid, some solid foundation is turning to liquid, and the dirt is being replaced with water. And there's like a washing of the dirt away, like a mass erosion taking place. And it was almost like a yin yang symbol, a replacement, a circular replacement. The dirt moves out and the water moves in, and then all of a sudden the foundation of these cities is on nothing but water. So I don't know if this is a metaphor or if this is something physical, real. I don't know what it means, but that's the knowledge I got, and it was so compelling. I woke up and immediately started talking about it. I mean, verbally just explaining it, talking about it. And it really shook me because it was so strong and so powerful. And again, that hasn't happened to me for several years. So what do you think it means? Is something about to happen that would cause cities to be flooded or inundated? Are there earthquakes, something about to fall off into the ocean? I don't know. the San Andreas Fault or the La Palma Island? Or is the U.S. going into war with Russia, and Russia has these thumper weapons, and they've got those nukes that they can burrow into the edge of the coastal cliffs off the East Coast, and they can set those off, and they can inundate major U.S. cities, including Washington, D.C. and New York City, and so on, with radioactive water, a tidal wave of water with radioactivity. I don't know, but I am now, I got a sense of urgency from this. That's why I'm sharing it with you today. I don't just talk about casual dreams and things like that. I got a sense of real urgency that something is imminent involving water erosion, the liquefaction, the erosion of the pillars underneath the cities, whatever that means. Maybe it means something to you. I don't know what it means, but we welcome your comments. You can email me or my staff, technically, at situationupdate@protonmail.com. If this makes any sense to you, situationupdate@protonmail.com. That's how you can reach me. And I appreciate your analysis. Maybe this is going to connect the dots for you in a way that I'm not aware of yet, and we welcome your comments. All right, now let's talk about the strike force situation, because this is coming back up now.
But I don't have a new goal to set for you.
Okay, so you heard Psaki say it right there, strike forces that are going to go into the communities. And because they didn't, they are now desperate. And what's happening now is they're going to take this thing kinetic, and they're going to activate the strike force teams that they've been talking about there. So we're going to bring up an article from newspunch.com that was just published yesterday. Democrats file new bill authorizing strike force to imprison unjabbed families. Quote, our internment camps are ready. So this is not Babylon Bee. This is not a joke. They ran concentration camps in Washington and Oregon, and then a civil war began, and the Patriots had to fight against the death camp left-wing Nazis to liberate America once again. And it seems like that's where this may be going. All right, so continuing here with the strike force operations. Now, who are these local health officers? These are, of course, well, Democrats. These are going to be the new police force of the left. And what they're trying to do, and this is what has been unleashed, they're trying to launch a civil war, an actual Holocaust war against conservatives in America. They're going to do it under the label of public health. And the left-wing Nazi police force people are going to be deemed health officers, and they're going to order you to be taken to death camps because they say that they think you might be sick, or they think you might be exposed, or they think they've detected, they know what search terms you have on Google. They've got it all tied into your phone, into your home address. They know if you're a conservative or a Christian or a Trump supporter or even a gun owner, and that's who they're going to target with the health orders. So then they're just going to go down the neighborhoods, the communities, and they're going to have everybody arrested. And believe me, that's what they're going to do. This is a death camp operation. And you might think, well, gosh, I mean, who's going to go along with this? Who's going to allow themselves to be medically kidnapped and take it to a concentration camp? Well, there's a lot of people that won't go along with that, and they're going to resist the tyranny. And this is what the powers that be really want. They're trying to provoke a shooting war. They're trying to do it. So they know this is crazy. They know that if they try to kidnap people and take them into death camps, that some people are going to fight back. As people should fight back when they're being taken to death camps. People should defend themselves. That's what's going to happen in left-wing areas. It's not going to happen in Texas. It's not going to happen in Florida. It's not going to happen in Kansas. I'm not saying it's going to happen everywhere, but they're going to try to run this in places like Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, places like that. And they're going to call for nationwide gun confiscation. Now, how do they carry out the gun confiscation? They need the military. Hence, the purging of the military to remove all Christians, conservatives, Trump supporters, pro-Second Amendment people, people who love America. That's what the purge is all about in the military. And then they need a big crisis. They can't just throw troops on the streets unless they have an excuse. So they need a big excuse. They need a big emergency. What could that be? What could be big enough that the American people would welcome troops on the streets? So you got to think big here, folks. You got to remember this is massive theater. So let me lay out one scenario for you that will probably take you by surprise. One scenario would be that Biden and Kamala are arrested and Trump is brought back into power by the military. And during the chaos, we are all under military martial law, under a constitutional crisis, total chaos. The military is in charge. At that point, they can go door to door and confiscate guns. I bet you didn't think of that scenario. The Trump returns under a military dictatorship scenario. You think that's not possible? Okay, well, maybe that's not the most likely scenario. What about this? And then they blame Trump supporters and they declare a national emergency. Then they can have guns on the streets. Now, go back to 9/11, folks. Think about where you were on 9/11. I remember that shortly after 9/11, I was driving to the Denver airport, and they had police checkpoints. Not just police, I mean soldiers with M4s, maybe a mile out from the Denver airport at that time, asking everybody, stopping everybody, saying, do you have weapons? Do you have, explosives? Whatever. It's like, who's going to say yes to that? I don't know. And then in the airports, there were armed, it was like a military police state. You remember that? Soldiers with M4s at all the security gates, all the checkpoints in all the airports across America. That's what we had after 9/11 in 2001. A lot of people have forgotten that. What did they need to do to pull that off? Now, 9/11 was a false flag event that was allowed to take place. The Bush deep state, of course, was all involved in that. They needed to pull that off to push the surveillance police state laws that they've used now against all of us and against Trump. I mean, they needed the Patriot Act to expand and so on. They needed to make sure they could spy on the American people, not just overseas, quote, terrorists. So that's what 9/11 was all about. Plus, they managed to destroy a bunch of evidence of all their crimes, which were stored in Building 7, World Trade Center 7, which was taken down by demolition, obviously. So what kind of event do they need to happen in order to put soldiers in every airport and scare the American people, which is what the deep state has done over and over again throughout history? The history of America is just the deep state going insane and, killing JFK, setting off the explosion in Oklahoma City, and then blaming it on Timothy McVeigh. They tried to bomb the World Trade Center in 1993 in the parking garage, and they failed to bring it down. So they just did it again in 2001 with airplanes. But it's all deep state operations, folks. They attack America so that they can spread fear and gain power. And DARPA said, what? Are you crazy? We're not going to fund that. So they just found other people to fund it. Because there's a lot of globalist money out there, and a lot of globalists want to destroy America. Soros, Gates, others. They want to take down America. So all they need, and they already have total control over big tech, total control over all speech, total control over the news media, and total control over almost all the governors, Congress, the president, the fake stand-in president, you name it. If they push a smallpox release and they start showing people dropping dead in the cities, they will spread mass panic, and 90% of America will fold and say, oh, we'll give up all our freedoms, we'll give up all our guns, we'll give up all our rights, just keep us safe from this smallpox. And that's just one example. There could be other things as well. They might run an attack on, the financial infrastructure using cyber warfare tactics. Take down the banks, take down financial transactions. What happens next? Well, total chaos in the cities. And if you have total chaos, then at some point you declare martial law. But, they have to make it painful enough for the American people to support the martial law. So they'll let the chaos run for a while. They'll just let the looters just start burning down cities, carjacking everybody in sight, stealing everything, looting. We need soldiers in the streets. And I've said this before, and I predicted this before. When martial law comes to America, most people will beg for it. They will beg for it. And you add to this the fact that they're shutting down the supply lines like never before. And by the way, January 15th is coming up. It's only 5 days away. What is that? Saturday. Starting January 15th, all truckers who enter or leave Canada have to be fully vaccinated in order to transport to or from Canada, into the United States. You have my support in doing so. The upshot, though, is that everything that comes from Canada to the United States that supply line is going to collapse. And everything that goes from the U.S. to Canada is going to collapse. And you might think, well, what comes from Canada into the United States? Well, all kinds of things. I don't know how many billions of dollars of trade it is, but it's huge. It's hundreds of billions a year. And I know in the nutritional products market, I know that collagen peptides, for example, come from Canada. It's one of the best sources. So good luck getting your collagen. I know that hemp seeds all come from Canada because of the weird, wacky U.S. laws. So you want hemp seed protein, hemp oil, hemp seeds, whatever. It's all coming out of Canada. You're not going to be able to get it anymore. Not long after January 15th. But it's not just that. There's a lot of stuff that goes between the countries. And then if you're in Canada and you're relying on imports from the United States into Canada, food, for example, there's a lot of food that goes north. Good luck. Not going to get much food. You're going to have a cold, starvation winter in Canada. And that's the direction Canada is going. And similar laws are being proposed, or I say administrative applications are being proposed in many European countries as well. So look at where all this is going. They can then use local police to enforce it. And that if you break a federal quarantine order, it's punishable by fines and imprisonment. And it says federal law allows the conditional release of persons from quarantine if they comply with medical monitoring and surveillance. You got that? You're a prisoner. And you might be released if you comply with constant surveillance. That's the only reason she's there. She's a Latina female. She was put in place by Obama. She's an actual idiot. Okay. She was known as a low IQ clerk who couldn't find her way around a law office. They put her on there because she's Latina. She made all these false claims on Friday. It's been all over the independent media over the weekend, and it will eventually lead to civil war because it's going to lead to a mass uprising, and states will have to nullify the decision eventually. Otherwise, the states will collapse. At some point, states like Texas are going to have to say, we reject that. You can get back to work. We have to keep, the grocery stores running. We got to keep the refineries running. And, how are we going to live without electricity and fuel and food and hospitals and everything? So there is a chance the Supreme Court is going to affirm this thing. If they do so, it also means that the Supreme Court has decided that the federal government owns your body and can force you into any medical experiment that they demand. That is the end of freedom. If they render that decision, then the Supreme Court is nothing but traitors at that point. Then they have declared war on, well, maybe they do. If they strike it down, then America doesn't collapse just yet. But if they strike it down, the maneuver is going to move to the states like Washington to try to destroy the supply chain on a state-by-state basis. Okay, so the Supreme Court, I wouldn't say that the Supreme Court saves America if they strike this thing down. All they're doing is rejecting the death blow this time. But the Supreme Court has not been in any way reliable defending civil liberties or, just the rights of the American people or even the Constitution. So I'm not putting a lot of faith in the Supreme Court. And it might be that they're all blackmailed and they've all been told. So obviously, it is time to take a stand against this insanity. We must stand up and stop it. We must do so in a peaceful way, if at all possible. But if they come for us in our homes, I don't know that there's a peaceful way to resist that. If they come for you in your home and kick down your door, so they are forcing people into a position where they're trying to invoke an actual civil war in America. And they may succeed in doing that in certain areas, such as Washington State. I pray that they don't succeed. I pray that sanity might be restored. I pray that the Supreme Court might recognize the importance of, civil liberties. But the fact that we even have to pray for that tells you how far gone this country already is. So we're in a desperate situation no matter what. Lots of special reports. And I thank you for listening today. I'm Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. I'll be with you tomorrow. God bless America. Take care.